Is John away or something, or?
Not heard from him.
Oh, okay.
Nina, did you hear from him?
He emailed me and you earlier today, and Bailey, I believe, and said that he's traveling and he's going to attempt to log in at a gas station if he can.
I didn't hear you.
I couldn't either.
He's traveling right now. He emailed you, me, and Bailey earlier today, and he said he's going to try to stop at a rest station if he can, but he's on the road.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to get started. Am I all set?
1 second. Yes, you're all set.
Good evening. This is the June 6, 2022 meeting of the Town of East Long Meadow Planning Board. Members in attendance are George Kingston, Cassandra Cherasuelo, Pete Punderson, and myself, Russell Denver. We're also joined by Bailey Mitchell, the Director of Planning and Community Development, and Nina Fazio from the Office of Planning and Community Development. I'm required by Mass General Law to ask if there's anyone in the audience who might be recording the meeting. If so, would you please raise your Zoom hand so you can be brought into the meeting, and you can identify yourself and tell us how you're recording the meeting. I don't see anybody with a hand raised, so I'm going to bring it back. I will say that this meeting is being recorded by LCAT for viewing at a later time. So our first order of business are the minutes of our last meeting dated, Cassie?
May 17th, 2022.
Thank you. Any corrections, edits?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, by roll call, Mr. Punderson,
I have to abstain.
Mr. Cherasuelo,
Aye.
Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well, so that item passes. Ms. Cherasuelo, first item.
Case SPRW 2022-9, request for a site plan review waiver for East Car Sales, a home office at 389 Elm Street. Assessor's parcel ID 34280. Do I have to say the dash?
Yep.
Located in the Residence A zoning district. Applicant Wilfred Gonzalez, 389 Elm Street, East Long Meadow, Mass. 11028. Continued from 4-5/2022, 4-19/2022, and 5-17/2022.
Bailey or Nina, are we expecting the applicant?
I spoke with him on the phone today, and he should be here.
Do you think he could be this number 439897?
It's possible. Not sure.
So if your phone number has a 439897, would you hit the bottom, raise hand at the bottom of the screen so you can be brought into the meeting if this is your item?
Mm.
Okay, not seeing it. Pleasure of the board.
This is the third time. I would suggest a fourth time, whatever, suggest that we vote on it to one way or the other.
Okay. Do I have a motion from somebody?
I would like to say, what is this just going to be an office? He's not going to try to put a car in his lawn, is he?
That's what we want to find out.
Yeah.
We want to ask some questions. I want to be able to look them right in the eye and say, there are not to be any vehicles on the property, period.
I agree.
So if this is part of the discussion and there's not a motion, I'm in favor of voting no, but that's just me. So
I mean, I would agree. This is the the fourth time now, and you called and you spoke to him, so at this point.
And I would do this for anybody in this situation simply because, you know, it's the potential, you're selling vehicles, there's a potential that you might want to store it overnight or a day or two until the buyer comes. I don't want that to happen. I want to be able to look at the person in the eye and say, you can't do that.
I
So,
agree with you. I agree with you.
well, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Well, for the purposes of discussion, can someone second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and second. So I think we already just did our discussion, unless there's more.
I just want to recall the auto transporter who only had a home office and ended up having his stuff on the lot. So we need to hear from this person.
Yeah, and that auto transporter also, I believe he might be on Colony or Ridge. There are times where he parks the transporter on the street overnight as well. So yes, I want to have this discussion. So an affirmative vote means you grant the site plan waiver. A negative vote means you do not approve. So by roll call, Mr. Kingston,
Nay.
Ms. Jeruswello,
Nay.
Mr. Punderson,
Nay.
and I'm a nay as well. That item fails. Certainly he has the ability to refile, but as of right now, that item fails. Next item, Ms. Jeruswello.
Case SPRW 2022-14, request for a site plan review waiver for King, Newton, and Stevens, a home office at 329 Pease Road. Assessor's parcel ID 32-16-0 in the Residence A zoning district. Applicant Donald M. Stevens, 329 Pease Road, East Long Meadow, Mass. 01028, continued from 5-17-2022.
I do see a Don Stevens as being an attendee. Can he be brought into the meeting, please?
Yep. Oh, there he goes. Where'd he go? Hang on, I think he must have missed the prompt. Okay, I just sent it again. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is.
Hello,
Hello,
thanks for joining us.
thanks for having me. Sorry, I missed the last one. I
Okay,
had an emergency.
so we always ask the petitioners to tell us a little something about the company, what you're going to be doing at that location, whether you're going to be, you know, what the customer flow might be, that type of thing, just to get started.
I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I basically do everything either on the phone, on my computer, or go out to the location. So I'm involved in leasing buildings, selling buildings. So there really isn't any walk-in customers. It's not like a regular retail. I guess it is retail, but it's not a regular walk-in type of business. And most of the work is done on the computer or face-to-face out at the customer site.
Questions from the board? I just have one question. Is Taylor Newton still involved with that, with your organization?
Yeah, he is actually. Thomas King and Taylor Newton started the business maybe 30-something years ago, and they wanted to retire, but they still kind of wanted to do some work. So I'm taking over the management part of it,
Okay,
and they closed their offices that they had, and they're going to work kind of part-time, as they feel in their special areas. And if things work out, then we're going to open up an office again. But this is the least expensive way to just kind of give it a test and see how it goes.
great. Okay. Have a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none by roll call, Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
Sarah Swallow,
Aye.
Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, guys and girls.
Take care.
Good
Bye-bye.
luck.
Next item,
Case SPRW 2022-16, request for a site plan review waiver for Tranquility Counseling, a home office at 134 Gates Avenue. Assessors parcel ID 12B-67-193 in the residency zone district. Applicant Chastity Crowell Miller, 134 Gates Avenue, East Long Meadow, Mass. 01028.
okay.
Centurion. Oh, there she is.
Hello. Good evening. So if you've been watching or hearing, so we'd like to know a little something about the business. Yeah, so why don't you start from there?
So I am a licensed independent clinical social worker licensed in Massachusetts under license 120111 with the Massachusetts Social Work Registry Board. I am opting to open a private practice that will be fully remote. Therefore, there will be no traffic to my home. Everything will be done via video sessions, via a telehealth platform. No signage on the home or anything like that.
Questions from the board? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve?
So
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Charasuelo,
Aye.
Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. Best of luck with that.
Thank you very much and have a lovely evening.
Take care. Next item.
Case SPRW 2022-17, request for a site plan review waiver for Pine and Birch Photography, a home office at 5 Leicester Street, assessors parcel ID 25-165-2 in the residency zoning district. Applicant Olivia Hall, 5 Leicester Street, East Long Meadow, Mass. 01028.
So earlier this week, Nina sent around a request from this applicant to move this to our next meeting. So does someone wish to make a motion to table it until the 21st of June?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none by roll call. Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
Mr. Charasuelo,
Aye.
Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. Next item.
Case ANR 2022-3, request by applicant for endorsement of a plan believed to not require subdivision approval under subdivision control law for the creation of 2 parcels. Parcel A, a plus or minus 130,547.4 square foot, 2.99 acre lot containing a portion of 302 Benton Drive, assessors parcel ID 10-9-2. Parcel B, a plus or minus 89,956 square foot, 2.06 acre lot containing a portion of 302 Benton Drive, assessors parcel ID 10-9-2, all located in the Industrial Garden Zoning District. Applicant MPT Development LLC, 4 Industrial Drive, South Hadley, Mass. 01075.
Is there an individual? Okay, I see the hand up. Kimberly Mosaic. Sorry, I butchered her name.
Good
Hello.
evening. Can you all hear me now?
We can hear you.
Hi there. So my name's Kimberly Maswick from BL Companies. I'm an engineer with BL, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, MPT Development LLC, and they are looking at subdividing the property known as 302 Benton Drive. And I don't know, do you want me to screen share the plan for you or?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. I will do that. Just bring it over here. Can you see it now?
We can. Yep.
Okay, actually, I'm gonna even just share this first, just to kind of get you guys oriented. So this is 302 Benton Drive, right just a little bit north of the intersection of Denslow Road and Benton. And it's really, the lot that we're looking at is right here, which is really directly across the street from Berkshire Facial Surgery that MPT just recently completed with Associated Builders. So what they are looking at doing is basically leaving this existing remaining facility on 302 and then carving this 2-acre parcel out. And, we've completed a zoning chart for you for both lots, just showing that it's in conformance. So this is existing conforming lot, and this will conform as well for the regulations in the IGP district. That's really it in a nutshell. I'm not sure if you want me to talk about anything else.
Well, I always have a tendency to ask questions before they're due, but I will. Are there plans for that new lot?
Nothing specific here. I mean, we've done briefly, I know Associated Builders works with MPT. I used to work at Associated Builders, and there were several different concepts looked at for here, just general to see, a test fit, like what can we do? Can we do things? And there was plenty of room to do, a 10,000 square foot plus facility here. So really it's, what the market is going to drive for them, but there was several options. So look
Questions from the
into
board?
some development.
No, I saw them out there doing test pits and surveying about a month ago, so I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
I just have one question. Is Peter Wood still with Associated Builders?
He is not. Peter retired. He retired. We say that because he's always still around. So, yeah.
All right. If there are no further questions, do we have a motion to approve the endorsement of the plan?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
Ms. Charasuelo,
Aye.
Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. All set.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Next item.
Case SD-D 2022-1, definitive subdivision plan for Happy Acres subdivision. Request by applicant for definitive subdivision approval for a 23 lot subdivision on a 31.8 plus or minus acre lot at 43 South Bend Lane, assessor's parcel ID 54-6-0, located in the Residence A zoning district. Applicant Marlene Goldstein, 43 South Bend Lane, East Long Meadow, Mass. 01028. Continued from 3-15-2022, 4-19-2022, and 5-17-2022.
So before we get started, so at the end of our last meeting, we missed an opportunity, or I missed the opportunity to allow Mr. Junstrom to address this board. He had some issues that he wanted to address. So if he's in the audience, would you please raise your hand so you can be heard and brought into the meeting?
Is this the same man with his hand up?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, have we reopened the hearing?
No. Okay. Before we reopen, any questions before we reopen the hearing?
No, we have to reopen the hearing before we take questions.
Okay. You're really confusing me here, George. So it's a good thing you're here. So, well, before I reopen the hearing, does the board have any issues you want to address without asking a question? Hearing none, can we have a motion to reopen this public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Made and second. Any discussion about reopening the public hearing? By roll call, Mr. Kingston.
Aye.
Mr. Charasuelo,
Aye.
Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
and I should probably vote twice, but I'll only vote once and say yes. So, okay. So I see Philippe Cravo would like to be brought in. And I see Mr. Levine is there. Why don't we also try to bring him at the same time?
Okay, sending Larry in.
And I think while Larry's coming in, so if I can recap where we left this off at our last meeting. I believe there was concerns and discussions around the issue of long-term maintenance of stormwater retention, among other things. Mr. Kingston and I both expressed the opinion that we did not want to see the town having to take this on. Mr. Levine, on behalf of the petitioner, was going to draft some documentation that would provide this board with some assurance that the town would be covered, and that the private property owners, I believe through the homeowners association, would take on the long-term responsibility of the maintenance. I believe that is accurate. If it's not, please someone step up and tell me. So, Mr. Levine,
Yes, sir.
I'll have you start.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I believe the day after your last meeting, I did send you a copy of the proposed declaration of homeowners association and maintenance covenant. And I also inserted in my cover sheet the wording I will insert in every deed conveying out each of the lots in the subdivision. I know last time I went through a long litany of items within the association, and when I got to the end, I was told that you had not received the draft. So I don't know if you want me to go through it again, or how's your memory?
My memory was pretty good, and I read the documentation that you sent,
Right.
so I'm comfortable.
I am too. I read it today.
Are you comfortable?
Yes.
I read the documentation also, and I'm somewhat comfortable.
Cassandra?
I read it.
Okay. All right. Do you have any questions?
Nope. I'd
All
rather
right.
do.
So I believe that was I thought we had narrowed our concerns to that one item that was left. We've gotten approvals from Public Works, from fire, from police. I know that Philippe's company has made additional changes as required through Tom Christensen and DPW. So I'm asking the board if you feel comfortable closing the public hearing. And then after closing the public hearing, if you're comfortable on voting on this matter.
Go ahead, George.
Is Mr. Jernstrom available or not?
Craig, is that you, 439-897?
They had their hand up, so I sent them in.
I hate to call someone a number, but the things we have to do with Zoom, so.
I've prompted them to unmute and to start video, but nothing seems to happen.
Okay.
In that case,
Okay.
I'm still on voting.
All right, so is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Can I just make one comment before we
Yes.
close?
Yeah.
I read the traffic study today, Larry, and it obviously very sufficient a site, I forget what they call it, SSD, stopping distance and all that stuff. There's there's 500 feet, and they only requires 300 something feet. That's not a problem. And I'm all for the development. It's just they're estimating 46 cars in and out of there during the day. I just feel bad for the people on South Bend Lane. That's all. And I think the development, but it is a lot of cars
Yeah.
in and out of that little area.
Yeah. So I talked to Tom Christensen about my concerns as well. And I indicated to him that after we were done with this item, I was going to, it's interesting that Mary is here, but I was going to send an email to Mary McNally to see whether the town could look at making a change in the speed limit along there and putting additional signage, dangerous intersection or, pedestrian traffic, something that would provide an additional layer of notice in an effort to try to slow traffic down there. But, so I will indeed do that after this item, so. All right, I believe, George, did you make a motion to adjourn or to close the public hearing?
Yes.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on closing the public hearing? Hearing none, by roll call, Ms. Chair,
She's muted.
okay, Mr. Punderson,
Aye.
Mr. Kingston,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. Any further discussion on the main item? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. So this will incorporate all the documentation that's been presented, all the materials from Attorney Levine, everything that's on the record. So by roll call, Mr. Kingston,
With reservations, aye.
Mr. Punderson,
The reservation of the amount of traffic bothers me. And so that's there, but aye.
Ms. Chair,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. That item passes. Mr. Levine?
Thank you. Thanks all for your cooperation. We had one request. I think someone had asked Mr. Mitchell if we could kindly see the proposed approval document before it's finalized. We have done that in the past and it proved worthwhile. We are all human, and just so we can take a look at it before the board actually signs it.
I have no issue with that.
I'd like to wish the Goldsteins the best of luck.
So happy. Yep. Best of luck, and we're looking forward to a really nice development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, next item, please. Cassie? You're muted.
Sorry. I got it. Other business, downtown mixed use development over is zoning discussion.
So Bailey, do you want to kick it off? Or do you want Mayor to kick off?
I will go ahead and kick it off. I'm going to share my screen so everyone can see the draft language for the downtown overlay district. So I just want to introduce this by saying when I started in April, I sat down and reviewed the 2021 Resilient Master Plan with Mary, and we identified a couple of the strategies that were outlined in the master plan. And as I was looking through the master plan, I thought that one of the priorities of the town should be the creation of a downtown mixed use district, whether that be an overlay or an inherent zoning district. I think that would be a good priority for the town to start with in terms of short-term implementation of strategies outlined in the master plan. And with that, I just typically with zoning changes, you have, or I guess new zoning districts, you have a higher level of public input, and you would like to typically have workshops that you host for the public, and I'm all for that. But I did just want to preface this with saying that because it's outlined in the master plan, I feel somewhat comfortable, having this discussion with the planning board and, moving through the process as it is outlined in Mass General Law for adoption of the zoning code. So with that, I will kind of say that my plan was to just go through the changes that I've made to the previous mixed use language that the board and the town had passed for the mixed use village district. And so with that, does anyone have any general questions, comments, anything?
So
to
just a
start
general
off?
question, just for people who might be watching. So can you explain the concept of an overlay district?
Yeah, so the idea of an overlay district is it allows for the whatever uses that are outlined within the overlay itself, and then it also allows for any of the uses and any of the restrictions also of the underlying zoning. So for an example, if the property was zoned industrial, it would also have that industrial use ability, as well as the permitted uses that are outlined in the overlay district.
Okay. So essentially you're adding uses with the overlay district that didn't exist before.
Correct. And it also allows for just an easier, typically it allows for more flexibility in a development. So.
Okay.
Bailey, does it allow retail?
So I also want to just, at first, this is kind of the development standards. So this document doesn't really include a use table. And that's something that I want to go through in future meetings. I think I'm going to start off with this. I added a kind of a outline schedule for what I wanted to do with the board. I can pull that up here in a minute, but I think it's really important to get the development standards down before we start talking about uses. So in terms of the use table, I would say that is a future discussion that we should have, as a planning board. So.
Oh, go back.
Go back.
So scroll down a bit.
Down.
Keep going. So just so that I want to make sure, because one of my concerns will involve this. So essentially are taking out single family dwellings. So within the overlay district in essentially the center of town, if this were to pass, a developer would not be able to put single family dwellings on that site.
That would be correct. That would be single family dwellings typically are just those single family houses. And that doesn't mean, again, this is the benefit of an overlay district. If we have any resident zoning districts underlying this, it would still be allowed on those parcels.
Yep.
That are zoned residents, whatever.
So for those people that might be watching, so can you give the definition of multifamily dwellings?
So I don't have a definition in front of me for what it would be. I believe it's already outlined in the zoning code. So I don't have the exact language, but that typically includes apartments and just any building that has multiple units for multiple families.
Okay. So I ask you questions because the public's not here. So I want to, if someone goes back to watch it, they're going to be able to get a flavor.
Understood.
Bailey, what do you consider the downtown area?
Yeah, so that's also a future discussion I wanted to have, is the boundaries. Right now, and I added I don't think you can see this right now, so let me pull it up. I do have a general thought on this. Looks like I didn't save it on here, so I can't actually share it. It's on my other computer. So my general thought is half-mile radius, within a half-mile radius of the Rotary is roughly center of town. And then from there, we can specify the boundaries. It wouldn't be like a perfect circle. It would follow some pattern that, whether it's we decide all the commercial properties, business, whatever, and leave out potentially residential, or if we want to include a layer, like one buffer area of the residential that exists there already. It would be helpful if I pulled up I can pull up the map. I just don't have the one that I overlaid a circle on. So give me 1 second. I can pull that up real fast.
Billy, just a quick question. If it included a residential area, that could possibly mean that they could have commercial uses in there. I mean, it's all going to be under special permit, correct?
Yes, it would be under special permit, and it could allow for the commercial use. It could allow for, it would allow for commercial use because of the mixed use nature. There would be commercial and residential required, I believe, in the code. It would be, the mixed use zone overlay would not allow for just residential just commercial without the residential piece.
But somebody that has a residence could put up, that they have big enough property, proper setbacks and so forth, they could have a commercial use on their residential property.
It would have to be a part of a 6-acre mixed use development.
6 acres.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You can just keep going, Bailey.
Okay. Okay, so with, I added a comment today. This isn't in your copy, but I think if you were to consider removing the multifamily dwellings with or without businesses, this would allow, right now it's kind of stating that you can have apartment buildings without any commercial. And I've seen it both ways in other municipalities. Most of them require commercial to be on the first floor of every building within the mixed use development. That may or may not be entirely feasible depending on how large we make the actual district itself. Because you would oversaturate the commercial space market, and you don't want to have empty commercial buildings in your downtown. That would be almost worse than having no mixed use at all. So
a comment on that. Later on, you talk about total gross floor area devoted to commercial and business uses shall not be less than 5%. 5% really would not cover the ground floors of all buildings.
yeah, so again, that would be like, this would, if you removed the or without, I think that would, it would push you towards that commercial side if that's what you wish to do with the code. I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to do that. I would just, again, state that it's not a good thing to have your downtown have commercial properties vacant. So.
Keep going, please.
So again, this is just the removal of an allowed use of single family dwellings.
So can I ask a question, George? You might know. Are condos considered multifamily dwellings?
Yes, they are. So are townhouses.
Okay, thanks.
And so with this one, I just was asking for the board to kind of have a discussion on the intent of this. I'm not sure what the benefit of having this would be, but I do want to just throw it out there as a discussion point for you all.
That arose because we did not want to have many large retail spaces. the idea was that you might have one supermarket or one large store, but we wanted mostly smaller retail outlets.
Okay.
Especially on a 6-acre lot.
Yeah,
doing
that
small.
makes sense. So would it make sense to, I mean, I need to go back and look at this myself, maybe a little bit more, but would it make sense to anyone else to lower the square footage on some of these? Since this was originally developed with a 20-acre parcel in mind, so.
Yeah. So if you look kind of across the street on Maple, you've got that little plaza. I think there's 4 different. I'd like to know what that square footage of each one of those units is, and that's that. To me, that would be more appropriate for a smaller site. That's just my opinion.
I would second that. I think the biggest unit there is either Walgreens or Rockies.
I'm actually talking Dunkin' Donuts, the Chinese restaurant, the toy store, something like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think also Center Village needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
Rockies is probably the biggest unit there. I don't know what the square footage is.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'll look at that a little bit more, and it'll be, whatever recommendations I might have, I'll try to bring for the next discussion. So with that,
where did the 6 acres come from?
So for the downtown overlay, it's going to be the properties within the downtown are much smaller than any of the other parcels that you might find that the town was looking at when considering the mixed use village district. So this would allow for more mixed use development in the downtown area. It's not feasible to require a 20-acre lot in the center of town. Most of the lots are 3 acres or less. And it's just, that's kind of where.
I'm just wondering where the number 6 came from, whether that was related to the proposed, the conceptual plan that was presented to us by a landowner in the center of town, and whether that particular property falls within the 6 acres.
So with that, it was considered in this decision to add a 6, but it does fit within the 6 acres. It's actually 6.5 acres. But again, it's just mainly the idea of a mixed use overlay allows for consolidation of those smaller lots. And that's kind of the idea, is getting some of these smaller lots together to create a 6 acre parcel for us to have a mixed use development in the downtown. So
we're talking maximum density. I can tell you, I mean, if we're looking for opinions, there is, I'm just going to be able to say it there. I'm not voting for anything if I'm on this board that allows 14 units per acre. That would be 84 units of housing on a 6 acre parcel. And I'm just going to refer to the developer who came in and, gave us a concept. I think both Mr. Kingston and I said that anything, well, I was certainly less than 50. So to me, that's way too high. And the other thing about the types of housing, so let's use 84, because 14 times 6 is 84, I believe, if my math is good. Conceivably, someone could put up 84 apartments. That's not something that I believe is in the master plan. It certainly doesn't go to retaining a small town feel. That was really kind of that was talked about all over the master plan. And I am looking for something that would have ownership. So the people who are going to buy into something on this 6-acre lot would be the owners of those units. Condos, if you can buy townhouses, which I think are ownership, rather than an apartment complex. I don't think that really adds value to the Rotary. 84 units, and I know the schools people were somewhat adamant. I've been told, so I'm going to preface that with I've been told, we're concerned with the number of units out on Chestnut Street where there was going to be a mixed use village district, about the number of kids that potentially could go to the school system. So 84, let's call it 84 times 2 is 168 potential kids in the school system. And if they thought they were losing money out on Chestnut Street, I'm sure they would think they were losing money here. So I have concerns about that. And while I'm on a roll, if I could, so I'm also, I am not in favor of requiring affordable housing as part of this. I would prefer to see a not to exceed rather than a requirement to have. And there is a nuance there. I just think that I think we tie the hands of developers when we do that. I understand why the town council has done it in the past, but I guess I'm going to reiterate my thoughts on that. So, and now I'll be quiet. So,
and I will echo Russ's remarks on density. 12 would be 72 units. I'm not sure why we would pump it up to 14. On the issue of affordable housing, I think we would need to research the legality of a not to exceed, because otherwise we're under title whatever it is, or section whatever it is, section 40, whatever, I forget. Anyway,
40B. Yeah.
20B, yeah. Okay. So we need to be careful there and maybe get a legal opinion on it. And just looking 2 paragraphs down, I think the maximum height of structures, I don't know why it went up to 50 feet, but I would think in the center of town, we would not want to exceed the height of town hall. And I think we've got to be careful about that.
I'd like to make a comment too, if I can.
Sure.
I agree with Russ and George wholeheartedly. I am not in favor of 50-foot high building. I'm not in favor of 84 units per acre. I'm not even in favor of 12. You know, from the 14 to the 12, I would be more like around down an 8. And I would like to see self-owned properties in the center of East Long Meadow also. Haven't had a chance to look at the rest of it, but some of it bothers me. But that certainly is a concern of mine, along with you two.
I will, though, play devil's advocate here and mention that in the elderly housing district, which is Brownstone, we do allow up to 25 units per acre. And that has proved manageable in Brownstone. Of course, that is age limited, and therefore you don't have any kids in there. And the apartments are quite small. Okay, I mean, I've been in Brownstone. These are for individuals or couples who are aging, and they're very small. I don't think that's what a developer would want to do, other than for the aged. But speaking as one, but anyway, I think that a 12, 10 per acre is more reasonable than 14. 14 seems awfully high.
And you know, it's the other interesting concept. And Bailey, so, you know, I talked to Bailey about some concerns earlier that I had. I mean, so let's just, you know, call it what it is. So it's really kind of from Maple, down Maple Court over to Shaker. And if they're going to retain that individual who came before the board with a concept, indicated they were going to retain the building on the corner of Maple Court and Shaker. And I believe they also indicated that they may tear down a building behind that and build a new one. Conceivably, if you put some units above the commercial right there, then there might be some play with all of that. But if you don't, you've got your train depot on one end and you've got, I believe, the Chapter Lane building on the other. And so you might end up with maybe 3.5 acres of property to put units on. That's putting a lot of units on a small lot. So that's that's a concern that I have.
So I just want to like kind of explain a little bit why some of these things were included.
Sure.
So just go back to the 14 per acre, and I can understand your concerns with, again, it's kind of like Russ said, with allowing a 14 per acre if you don't have commercial properties that have residential above. But that that number, if you allow, or if you go back up here to my comment on the multifamily dwellings with or without business, again, I think if you take this out of the equation entirely, you're looking at something that's much more manageable in terms of height. You can take out the 50. The 50 foot was already in the industrial. And considering your downtown, you have a considerable amount of industrial properties that are going to hit that 6 acre limit, which again is why I raised it to 50, because I mean, you're already allowing it in some manner in your mixed use village. So that was the thought process behind that. Instead of making
so that's an office building? Probably. Are we talking about where Fitzgerald Law is? So there's a 2-story office building. Would that be the highest in Center Square, George and Pete?
It would be one of the largest. Is that 2 or 3 floors?
I don't know for sure, but that's got to be the largest.
That's the tallest building and has the biggest footprint, I would believe.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. The industrial buildings in the area are quite low, most of them. The only tall industrial buildings are actually Industrial Garden Park, where we've got what used to be Sudacor is probably the tallest building in town right now.
So, I mean, all I'm saying is the 50 feet requirement or maximum height right here that is crossed out. This is from the mixed use village zoning.
Yeah.
So,
and I understand that, and so we're kind of giving you our advice because those are 2 completely different locations. So,
yeah, and I understand what you're saying.
Cassie, you gonna jump in here because you live fairly close to this?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of concerns, just like the rest of you do. The 6 acre thing is, I mean, where did that number come from? Like, I understand it was 20, and I know that there's smaller parcels, but sorry, the dog. This is why I mute myself. It seems very specific to me. The height, it is our downtown area, and I understand why you're bringing this forward, because the master plan and we wanted to create that kind of downtown walkable area, but you want it to still feel like this town. So it just close that door.
Okay. So Bailey, you're getting our messages. So, but let's keep going.
You just want it to feel like our town's still in this. The way it's written now seems like it's just being built up a little too much because of the housing and all of that in a
And-
small area.
And we, we also need to remember that this has to go through town council,
Right.
and it has to be acceptable to them. And some of the objections we're bringing up are certainly things that I've heard from counselors.
Yeah, and I'm just, I'm pushing back because I don't, honestly, if I can be honest, I don't see any developer coming forward with what, a mixed use development with those requirements that we're discussing. I don't think it's financially feasible in today's market. So I understand, and I understand the feedback. I really do.
Yeah, good.
And I do want to just also, I didn't, outline every single strategy from the master plan that I was looking at and when I was going through this, but there are several that point to higher density in downtown. And it might not be the feel what it is right now, but that is the vision for the future by the residents. And I wasn't here when that was made, so I don't want to put words in people's mouths, especially in the town, because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm using the master plan that was created by the residents of this town. So I do
Really,
just wanna,
by no means should you be defensive of anything whatsoever. You're doing your job. And you're doing your job, and you're doing it well. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
George
I just want to, get that out there before anyone may accuse me of doing that. I am
No.
out of town. So I just want to.
Don't even go there. Don't even worry about it.
All right.
Because George was on that committee. I participated in many focus groups as part of that committee. So.
And I'm not saying that because anyone's acting that way now. I'm just saying I've had it done before. So I just want to. That is
So
all.
you've been through the planning wars before.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing personal here. We're just looking.
Yeah, and I'm not taking it personally either. I'm just.
I've been involved with this stuff now for God knows how many years, but there's to get things through politically, you need to think about what actually will get through council and what is reasonably acceptable to when people see the details. It's one thing to sit there and say, we want higher density, we want more walkable, we'd love to have a downtown like East Hampton or, West Hartford. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, we need to think about not being overly aggressive and, just feedback. It's nothing personal. I know you're doing the best you can with what you got.
Yeah.
But I just giving you just opinions at this point. Okay.
And I think as someone that when I started practicing law early on, did a lot of zoning and actually did some zoning work here in East Long Meadow. I've always been amazed at people buying property and then 3 or 4 years later coming and say, I want to do this. And the question is, well, did you think about that before you bought the property?
Yeah.
And to see whether you could do it, number one. And then they're surprised that they can't.
Okay, Russ?
Yes, go ahead.
A person that was born and raised here, live on the same street I was raised on. My vision of downtown East Long Meadow certainly isn't 50-foot tall buildings with apartments stacked next to each other. My vision would be of many buildings that provide, buildings that are maybe 35 feet tall, that provide services, retail capacity, and maybe some owner occupied living areas and people walking around and, just matriculating through the center of town and enjoying the center of town.
Yeah.
I just could never vote for 50 feet. I could never vote for the density with clear conscience. So that's where I'm at right now. But I have a picture of what I'd like it to look like. And I think it's a pretty good picture. It looks more like a New Hampshire town than downtown Springfield, in my vision.
And I think this is what Bailey's looking for from us, and we're certainly giving it to him.
All right, so so some of the setbacks I think could have been changed for, again, just creating slightly higher density than you might have a mixed use village on, you know, your periphery of your downtown, wherever you, on those 20-acre lots that were thought of, you know, when creating the previous mixed use, or the adopted mixed use, I should say. So that's kind of the changes made here to that.
Fewer setbacks. One comment under utility requirements. We ought to put in something there about electrical service adequate to provide one level 3 vehicle charging station for each 10 or some number of housing units. Because if you're going to put this in, the time to put the electrical infrastructure, which involves conduit and charging station pads and so on, is before you put the pavement in. And this is something that's coming really quickly. If what you're going to have here is young professionals, they're going to want charging stations, and they're going to want level 3. And if you don't provide the electrical service for that, doing it afterwards is going to be expensive and disruptive.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I was really kind of waiting on that to tie that into some of the work that I'm going to do on the electrical vehicle charging station parking requirements for the whole town. That is something that I'm starting. I've already started research, but I'm going to start working on that more intently and throughout the month of June. So it'll be something that I include in this as well.
Good, because I mean, since we're doing this as a new type of zone, it'd be a great place to start doing it.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, with that, the one change I made here was the parking requirements. I do think that the idea is to have a more walkable space that is allows for, you know, a mix of transportation options. So you are thinking about, we have a bike trail that goes to the center of downtown. That could be a really great way for people to get to work and instead of driving everywhere. So the parking requirements might be able to be less than they might be, again, on those larger parcels where everyone has to drive everywhere. The only caveat I would put to that is, I know that most residents in the town don't work within the town. They commute out of the town to go to work. So it is something that may have to be thought of when, you know, actually finalizing this document. So
Mary has been very patient. Mary, do you want to jump in?
Thanks, Russ. No, I really wanted to be at the meeting just because Bailey and I had originally discussed his plan, and I just wanted to hear the
Okay.
details of it.
All right, thanks.
I would hope, though, that some of the comments I've heard from the board members would not necessarily be your final decisions. I know you're trying to be helpful, but this is going to be tweaked. It's going to be reviewed. It's going to be thought through many times over. I do know from, and the point that Bailey made a little bit earlier, with all due respect to the desirability of maintaining the so-called downtown area with its local character, I think we have to consider some evolution of those long-held views, because, you know, as you all know, package machinery, and I understand it's a totally different part of town and so on, but the developers' difficulties with the bylaw are a major reason why that parcel is still in the condition it's in. And I don't want the same thing to happen to this area of Maple Street. And I think that the developers that I've talked to are already of a mind that I think density may be a big issue. I don't know I don't recall the number or the square footage of an individual apartment, but we're not looking to build Chestnut Towers by any stretch. Just looking to revitalize that area, particularly of Maple Street. But, you know, I defer to, obviously I value your opinions, as I know Bailey does. So I just want people to continue to think about it. That's all.
Mary, it's a fine line though, if you think about it. We're here to make decisions for the towns, not for the developers. But I understand.
No, I know that, certainly.
If you cut the developers, or, you know, if you put too much of a restriction on them, they're not going to be able to develop. So it's a real fine line. We have to find some common ground there.
Oh,
So-
definitely, definitely. And please don't misinterpret my remarks either. I would like to have something workable so that not to favor one developer or any developer, but just to facilitate development in general.
I agree. I agree.
But that's all. But thank you. I know you're right. And you've got a lot of history here, as you all do. And everybody's well-intentioned. And so that was it. Thanks, Russ.
So Mary, don't leave, because we have one other item for you. So,
Oh, no, I'm not leaving. I was just going to mute myself.
okay, all right.
I think we're getting pretty close to the end here, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to, again, this is just another reduction in open space potential. Again, this isn't set in stone, and this is, I think, doing it this way, I think this is a much better way to do it. Gives the planning board more discretion to reduce it if they so please, in the right circumstance, if they see the benefit of the development. And again, it would have to be within a mile of some sort of public open space. I think that could be interpreted as allowing, access to that would be maybe the bike trail could be, included in that. So
One quick comment that is a little ambiguous in its, I'm nitpicking, but it's a little ambiguous in its wording, because you say may allow up to a 15% reduction. Is that 15% of 20%, or is it down to 5%? I think you need to be a little more specific there.
okay, I think
I think I know what you mean. Is it can go down to 5%, but
Yeah.
it's not worded that way. And given that we've got lots of lawyers looking at this,
Yeah.
we need to be careful.
I see the issue that could come up. Yeah, I appreciate that. So then the rest of this is just, I believe, the previous wording.
Yeah.
And then we have the affordable housing that Russ already commented on. So,
So Bailey, I want to give you a lot of credit for taking a crack at this. You really put a lot of thought into it, and I do appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. One thing on section 13, affordable housing, you have anticipating 100 residential units or greater to be developed, and that number is not accurate for this size development. Since we're talking, at current levels, at maximum of 84. I'm not sure why that even has to be in there. The
Yeah.
ratios stayed the same.
Yeah, I also, that was the language from the
Yeah.
other bylaw. So I'm not sure why that had to be included either. But yeah, it should be taken out probably.
Again, I'm nitpicking, but
Yeah,
we've been nitpicked so much by other people looking at our written bylaws that I got to be careful.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, I want to get it right the first time so we don't have to come back and do it all again. So
So can you take some of our comments and suggestions and maybe rework it and bring it back?
yeah, and I think if I can
And I'm
share-
wondering, have you, I know that you and Mary must have worked on this together, gotten her thoughts. Have you run this by any town councilors?
I have not yet, no. I wanted to get the planning board's thoughts and stuff before. I think that, I mean, in its current form, I don't know if, I mean, I'm kind of leaving it open to you all, but I don't know if it would be a good idea to show it to them at this point, but I don't know.
Well, I'll leave that to you to discuss with Mary, but I mean, I think they have a zoning subcommittee. Don't they have a zoning subcommittee of the town council? No?
They do. They do.
Yeah, I don't think it meets regularly. Russ, if I may, I've had some casual conversation with a couple of counselors, but nothing formal, nothing meaty that I would, share with anybody because it was very non-committal and just sort of off the cuff.
So I guess I'd like to just kind of refer to the former planning board members who are currently on the council. I think there's 4 of them. I think two of them are up for re-election tomorrow. We might want to wait till after the election. And, Marilyn Richards used to be a planning board member, Ralph Page, Don Anderson, and Sid Starks. And, it's always good to use some experience, people with experience, just to look things over as well. But just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Because essentially, as George mentioned, it's going to have to come from us to go to them. And as we know, with the mixed use village district, I think they spent almost a year on that one. So I think the more that there is some type of agreement, the less it would have to be vetted by the town council, maybe, and it might proceed a little quicker if we get a couple more hands in the pot before we actually vote on something. But just a suggestion. So
Was kind of where I was going with my development comments, that I know how much time and effort was spent on 330 Chestnut.
Yeah.
And unsuccessfully, I guess I would have to say. I mean, the bylaw was passed, but we still weren't able to move that property in the direction that I think people wanted it to go. But so I just don't want to have Bailey spend a ton of time or your board spend a lot of time trying to craft this and draft it so that it's acceptable, and then know or believe I know that we're not going to get any juice out of it. So, that's really it.
Okay. All right. So I like the September 6th public hearing goal, Bailey. I think that's very admirable of you.
It's a goal. Yeah.
I think it's I think it's, you have to have goals. You have to have objectives. So it's wonderful. So why don't you, keep this on our agenda? So, put it on the agenda for the 21st as well.
Will do.
So while we have you, Mary, so George, do you want to talk to Mary? You're muted, George.
I'm sorry. My term as a commissioner on PVPC needs to be renewed, and I am up for election as vice chair of the commission this year. So I would ask that with the agreement of the board, I might be reappointed as the town's commissioner for one more year.
And so is there a motion that we recommend George Kingston to be reappointed to the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission as the town's representative?
So moved.
Do
I'll
I have a
second.
So this is a recommendation only to you, Mary, obviously. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Thank
Thank
you, Mary.
Good job, George.
You're muted. Okay.
Thanks. I'll take that recommendation, and I think it's a wise one. And sorry, I didn't say this earlier, but Russ, you were giving me credit for working with Bailey on this, and he deserves all of it because we discussed the concept, but all the work, all the heavy lifting was done by Bailey. So want you guys to know that.
And Mary, if we don't see you before your time ends with the town of East Long Meadow, I want to tell you what a pleasure it's been working with you. You've always been available. You've always had some sage advice, so I greatly appreciate it. The town is fortunate to have had you.
I appreciate those kind words, Russ.
Hey, Bailey, you're on the right track. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. It's just need to fine tune it.
Okay. Next item, Cassie.
Number 2, mobile food vendor bylaw discussion.
So this is something that came up when I first started, was ice cream truck vendors and food truck vendors. So those are technically 2 separate things. One, kind of the ice cream vendors will drive around, and as many of you probably know, you can go get ice cream from them, and but they don't sit in a location. Mobile food vendors are more, just park and then serve your food there. So this discussion kind of came up with the health department when I first started, and I did something similar in my previous position with the city of Ferguson, where they had less hands-on in terms of health department type things. So I was talking to our health director today, and she stated that they have a actual application process and a permitting process for food vendors. And the ice cream truck vendors is really supposed to be housed in the clerk's office, and with the police department for background checks throughout the state of Massachusetts. So that's something that isn't really in place in the town right now. And that's something that the planning board doesn't really need to have any say in right now. But just kind of explaining the whole process and some of the open items that we need to work on. But for you all, the mobile food vendor issue is really a zoning issue right now, because we do have a process for it, but it's not permitted anywhere in town as per the zoning bylaws. So right now there are some applicants who might want mobile food vendors, food trucks at events and stuff. They can be permitted through event permits and through that process. And that would basically specify a date and time. But there's also a process at the state level that allows mobile food vendors anytime or things like that. I don't know the specifics on that, but it would allow food vendors basically as we permit them in that process. So I don't know exactly if there's no action tonight, because either way it would be a zoning bylaw amendment, and it would have to have a public hearing. So I just wanted to bring it up to you all, get your thoughts on that as well. See, what you might know about this as well, and general thoughts about allowing them in town.
Boy, you're really riling us up tonight. George, go ahead.
I guess I'm a little confused about this, because we deal with uses on properties in town, if somebody's doing something on a public street, is that a zoning issue under mass law? I don't know.
Well, so in terms of the ice cream truck vendors, I don't think that would be a zoning issue. The mobile food vendors would be more of a zoning issue if they're parked in a parking lot. It wouldn't be allowed in a public right of way regardless because of the right of way laws. I mean, typically you can't park on a street. So
as an example, George, earlier this year, there was a hot dog vendor that was parked adjacent to Custom Auto in town.
Yeah.
So they were actually, they were there and they were selling their products on a business lot. So.
Yeah, I agree. It's something we need to look into because it's becoming much more popular, and sometimes it's event driven, but it could be somebody doing it on a permanent basis. Okay, I have no idea if there are food trucks that are working the industrial garden park, for instance. There may be that I'm not aware of. Health department hopefully is aware of that. Are they on the street because parking is legal there? Okay. Or are they on somebody's individual property? And that would be something different from an event-driven thing where, a bank's doing a promotion and they have a food truck. I mean, something like that.
Yeah, so my company has done some employee appreciation things and have had a food truck vendor come, and we had to get a permit through the Board of Health. It was a one-time, 2 hours in and out type of thing. That's certainly not permanent. So.
Yeah, as someone who works in that industry, that's typically how it goes.
Okay.
You just get the event or the permit for a specific day or time or whatever. But there's like stipulations because of like the fire, the gas, all of that stuff. So there are some stipulations when you get into that realm. But I've never had to do any other permitting other than the health department in other towns for that. So
I personally like to see some food trucks around. It's a great diverse menu, quick lunch, whatever. And I see no problem with a good humor man driving through the neighborhoods and selling ice cream.
No problem with that.
Yeah.
Other than I hate the music.
Yeah. Clown music.
Some might say you're a grouchy old man.
They'd be right.
All right. Bailey, what else you have for us?
So Nina and I have been putting together new application forms, processes, instructions, trying to streamline process for applying for various planning and community development things. So I have those I have included in your application or in your meeting materials. I just want to, I don't know if you all had a chance to review, but we wanted to bring them to you because I thought that they would be needed to be approved by the board. I believe the subdivision applications are actually written into the code, the rules and regulations. So we would have to probably do an amendment to the subdivision rules and regulations for all of the subdivision ones, which is why I didn't bring those today, because I want to make sure that we're doing that if it needs to be done. So
I read through all of them. I have no issues whatsoever. So.
All right. And I did just want to say the biggest thing that I changed was just cutting out any repetitiveness from the zoning determination form. And I made sure that all of that information was in the zoning determination, because we already require a zoning determination for every application. So I mean, as you know, someone who has to fill out applications on a regular basis. I would not want to do that multiple times. There was a lot of information on that. So, so that's just one of the biggest things.
All right. Are we all set? So, so board members, so we are meeting again on the 21st. I am imploring you to make sure that everyone is in attendance. Two major things that we have on our agenda are the Verizon cell phone issue and 160 Maple Shade, a determination on that special permit. So it is with great urging that I ask that you make sure you are in attendance. You all are really good anyway, but just want to make sure that we had 5 people at that meeting. So. Yes, sir.
Russ, did you discuss anything about that special permit on Maple Shade Avenue in the last meeting? I did not read the minutes of it.
So there was a request to allow them some time to see whether the holder of the special permit could meet with a number of the individuals who spoke against, I don't know if against is the right word, who indicated that there were specific issues in which he was cited for by the zoning administrator. And his attorney asked whether they could have some time to try to meet with the neighbors. And we granted him that time. So.
Okay. It doesn't seem to be a neighbor issue. It seems to be what the special permit specifically said he can and cannot do. So.
Potentially. Yep. Yep. So, but you certainly want to have everybody in attendance for that one.
Okay.
So.
When do we go back to in person? Do you know the
So I believe the latest is on or before July 15th. Is that correct, Mary?
We have a reservation in the school committee room starting with the July 19th meeting if everyone's ready to go back.
Okay.
Good.
Mary, go ahead.
Yeah,
Mary.
there is a bill before the legislature now to extend that to December of 2023 so that you would continue to have the option of meeting remotely.
What are people?
But it hasn't passed yet.
Yeah, what are people's general feelings about Zoom versus in person?
I
Board
hate,
members.
I'd rather meet in person.
George?
I hate Zoom.
Yeah.
No, seriously.
Cassie?
dislike Zoom, but I do appreciate that I don't have to like drive somewhere and then, you know, I like the comfort of my home, you know, just opening it up, but in person is better.
Boy, I guess I'm really outvoted. I love Zoom.
I'd rather
I really miss
not the
the
beach,
interaction.
that's for sure.
Yes, it does.
Okay. It really, we're supposed to represent the town, and we're not hearing from the town through Zoom the way we do through in-person meetings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that bugs me a little.
So while we're also all together, so what are we thinking of July 5th? Meet or not meet?
Meet.
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 If we have business, meet.
Okay. All right.
That would be via Zoom still,
Yeah.
because we don't have the.
Yeah, I'm going to take it right up to the 19th or to the 15th. So, yeah.
Perfect.
I have allowed Bailey, as all my department heads, the discretion to work remotely when necessary for their schedules. And because as the planning director, he's attending your meetings as well as conservation and the zoning board of appeals, and he has a significant commute. Maybe if that new law passes, you might want to consider a hybrid where you can meet in person and maybe your director, if he chose, could Zoom in. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
I'm trying to accommodate people's needs because it's a long work day, and then these meetings, as it's now 7:28. So, you know, it's a long day for somebody with a commute on top of everything else.
As long as IT can accommodate us.
Yeah.
I would like that.
We're working on that too, George.
I'm sure you are.
All right, hearing no other business. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, just say aye.
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 Everybody have a great
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Good
Thanks
night.
for all
Thanks,
your
everyone.
dedication and your
Thanks,
good
Mary.
work. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Bailey.